Okay, guys, we're going to start our new story. The name of the book we're going to read is Hatchet. Hatchet is the title. The author is the person who wrote the book. The author is Gary Paulson. Now, we are going to actually be reading an adapted version of this book that I wrote. So it's still information from Hatchet, except since it's adapted, the chapters are about a page long, sometimes maybe 2 pages, but they're much shorter. So let's start looking at this book. Our main character in the book is Brian, and you can see Brian here on the screen. Brian lives in New York. New York is about right here, right in here. Brian is getting ready to fly from New York to visit his dad in Canada. Canada is north of New York. Let's go ahead and start reading the story. Hatchet by Gary Paulson, Chapter 1. Brian was 13. He was flying in a small plane to visit his dad in Canada. Brian's parents are divorced, so Brian is sad. Before Brian left, his mom gave him a hatchet. While on the plane, the pilot has a heart attack. So you're going to see we have Brian, our main character, the picture of the hatchet because that's what his mom gave him before he left, and then our little picture of the map down here, which is going to show that Brian lives down here in New York, but he's getting ready to fly to Canada. Let's go ahead and look at Chapter 2. Chapter 2. Brian had to fly the plane. The pilot had a heart attack and died. Brian tried calling on the radio. He tried to figure out how to land the plane. Then the plane made a noise. Brian knew it was out of fuel. Brian pushed the nose of the plane down. Then he threw up. Okay, so those were our first 2 chapters. What do you think of our first 2 chapters? He's on a plane. The pilot has died. His nerves is probably what's made him throw up. So now we have to see what happens. We'll pick up the next chapters later. So let's go ahead and switch over and look at the quiz. Now, you can either be looking at this actual quiz, which is fine, or you can just get a piece of paper and a pencil, and we'll do this together. We'll pause for just a moment so you can go ahead and get either the quiz or paper and pencil. All right, so let's go ahead and start looking at the questions. If you have paper and pencil, write the number 1 down. What is the title of the story? Is it Flying to Mars? Is it Hatchet? Or is it Twilight? Look at your 3 choices. What is the title of the story? They're all right here. You're correct. The title of the story is Hatchet. If you're writing this on paper, go ahead and write the word hatchet next to number 1. If you have this quiz in front of you, just circle the picture. We'll wait just a minute to give everybody time. Okay, let's go ahead and look at number 2. Number 2 asks, who is the author of the book? Is the author Gary Paulson, Phil Collins, or James Patterson? Who is the author? Gary Paulson, Phil Collins, or James Patterson? So look at your choices. Decide which one's correct. Write down the answer or circle it. You're correct. The author is Gary Paulson. Remember, the author is the guy that wrote the book. So go ahead and circle Gary Paulson if you have the quiz, or just write down the number 2 and write Gary Paulson next to it if you've not already done that. Okay, let's go ahead and look at number 3. Number 3 says, who is the main character of the story? Is the main character Brian, Phoebe, or Caroline? Who is the main character? Brian, Phoebe, or Caroline? If you have paper and pencil, write the number 3 and write your answer. If you have the quiz, just circle the correct answer. You're correct. The main character is Brian. So you should have Brian written down next to number 3. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the next page. This we learned at the very beginning of chapter 1. The question is how old is the main character? How old is the main character? Is he 12, 13, or 14? How old is the main character? 12, 13, or 14? So go ahead and either circle your answer or write down the correct answer. You're correct. The main character, Brian, is 13. Let's look at number 5. What was wrong with the pilot of the airplane? What's wrong with the pilot? Did he have an upset stomach? Did he have a broken arm? Or did he have a heart attack? What's wrong with the pilot? So go ahead and make your choice. Write down your answer or circle your correct answer. Yes, you are correct. The pilot had a heart attack. So you're going to either need to write down heart attack, or if you have the quiz, just circle it. All right, so let's look at the questions that are relevant to chapter 2. Let's look at these. Chapter 2. What does Brian need to use? Now remember, he's on the plane. What's he trying to use? The bathroom, the radio, or a book? The bathroom, the radio, or a book? That's correct. Brian was trying to use the radio. He was wanting to radio for help since the plane was crashing. So circle your answer if you have the quiz in front of you, or just write it down on a piece of paper. Okay, let's move on to question number 2. Did Brian talk to someone on the radio? Did Brian talk to someone on the radio? Yes, he did. No, he didn't. Or you're just not sure. Did he talk to someone on the radio? Yes, he did. No, he didn't. Or you're just not sure. Okay, so make your choice. Write it down or just circle it if you have the quiz in front of you. You're correct. He did not talk to anyone on the radio. He couldn't get it to work. All right, last question. Number 3. What was Brian's choices? Now, what's that mean? Well, I mean, when he was on the plane, what were his choices? What could he do to save himself? Could he just have the pilot to fly the plane? Was he going to have to get the airplane down himself? Or could he just go home? What were Brian's choices while he was on the plane? Well, he couldn't have the pilot to fly it because remember the pilot had died. But he was trying to get the airplane down. That was what Brian was trying to do. He put the nose of the plane down and then he actually got sick. But that's the goal, was to get the plane down safely, preferably. Circle your answer, write it down, which ones works best for you. Now there's one more thing I want you to think about. Brian is now going to be stranded. If you were stranded, what is something you would like to have with you? Brian definitely has his hatchet that his mom gave him, so that might be something you would want too. But what's something else? Can you list 2 things that you think you would want to have with you? You can write them down. You can draw a picture. It's whatever works. I'm going to give you another idea. I think I would want to have a first aid kit. Because what if something happened and you had some kind of cut and you needed some basic first aid to keep it from getting infected? A first aid kit would be good. What else would you want? Okay, so write this down. And remember, after this is done, get it sent to me. You can take a picture of it and email it to me. You can drop it off at the school, just whatever works better for you. Come back later because we're going to have the next 2 chapters. We'll read chapters 3 and 4 and do the questions on those as well. Bye, guys.